You
So
should move to Medellin, Colombia, John.
where?
I believed it's pronounced Medellin,
Oh, Medellin.
Medellin, I think it is. Medellin, Colombia.
Why would I go there?
Because it's the land of the women with the fattest bottoms,
I don't
the
like fat
widest
bottoms
hips, the
or
biggest
white
thighs,
hips or
the
thighs
biggest titties,
or tits. I mean, don't get me
lovely
wrong.
melanin.
Hang on, melanin I can deal with, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to climb over any of these women to get to you. All right,
Of
but
course.
this fascination of guys for women with big asses and big tits. I mean, my dad was an inveterate tit man, as mum always used to fucking say, which was just as well because I have to admit my mother had gigantic knockers. There's no denying the giganticness of my mother's knockers. That's why I was such a well-fed baby, obviously.
It was the inspiration for our
I
business name.
distinctly remember I trying to push this tit in my mouth and me thinking, fucking, I'm not going to be able to eat all that. But no, I don't. I like my women, prefer them to be kind of athletic, and I don't mean skinny. I mean, a good example would be like, fucking powerlifting chicks. So they're quite solid, but they're not, not Bulgarian fucking weightlifter.
Powerlifting chicks.
Yeah, strong women, physically and emotionally, and in terms of characters, fucking hot. Intelligent women are fucking hot as well.
That's definitely a small man thing.
Why? What do you mean? I don't get it. What's it got to do with my size?
Give me a big, strong mummy who can throw me around like the little leprechaun I am.
No, you're just projecting. Really?
What are you on about? Compared to you, I'm fucking massive. I want a skinny little thing I can throw around with a nice pair of pillows on her bum.
You're projecting your own desire to be dominated by some fucking powerful chick.
Not projecting. Not everything's a projection. Some things can be observations.
Observations?
Observations?
Observations? I nearly got you again.
Almost. I saw your email trying to get me on that the other day. I just didn't even dignify it with a response. I saw it. In fact, I was on the shitter, John. I was on the shitter. And I thought, let me just check my emails whilst I'm on the shitter.
As you do.
Well, emails are shit. I don't want to waste my time with emails. So the only time I ever look at my emails is when I'm on the shitter. It's not a joke. Because otherwise I'd just mindlessly fucking scroll through some crap. Anyway, I saw it. Yeah, you're a cunt. Didn't dignify it with a response. And for those who've got no idea what we're on about, it's a game we're playing, basically.
Yes. And if you're in Core Control or Elite or CCX16 Consulting, you'd know exactly what we mean. But you're not, so you won't. Tough. But hang on a minute. I want to rewind a little bit. It's actually pertinent to what we're talking about today, bad habits. First thing is, how can you say that having a shit is wasted time? Because that's what you're implying. Having a shit is one of those moments when you should be, we've talked about this before, mindful shitting. You should be sitting on the toilet mindfully, enjoying the feeling of the world dropping out of your bottom. I mean, since I started eating, and this is going to sound very wanky, I know, but on the advice of my mobility trainer, I've started eating sauerkraut, live yogurt, blueberries, granola, and all this
for your gut health.
Stuff, right? For my gut health. And there's been, and I have and this is probably too much information, but hey, it's my podcast. If you don't like it, don't listen. It's our podcast. I've got the famous and somewhat notorious, very healthy McCulloch bowels. But I have to say, with all these nuts and all this live shit business, all these bacteria, they're even more healthy now. You would not want to go into the bathroom anytime soon after me in the morning. You really wouldn't. Not unless you're some kind of perv, which is always possible.
Especially if you've been devouring fermented foods. If you're enjoying some of the fermented foods, kimchi is very pleasant.
Is it? I'll try that. Because when I first get this right, I mean, just the description of sauerkraut is enough to put anybody off. Shredded cabbage fermented for 6 weeks. You think, fuck off. And then when I went down to the local Polish shop because it's like the only place in town that's got fermented sauerkraut that's fresh. Because I mean, there's loads of places do it in jars, but then it's pasteurized. So it's pointless. And I got this fucking. I mean, it's so cheap. It's like €2.40 for a kilogram.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Bear in mind, you have 60 grams a day at top dose. That's a lot of fucking. that's a good supply. Anyway, when I first tried it, about 20 grams on a fork. I thought, it's like drain cleaner. But I have to admit, I was wrong. I've now got a taste for it, and I'll have it as a little snack because one, it's actually quite tasty, but it's also really refreshing.
Yeah,
a nice taste in the mouth. It's like a drink of water. It's really fucking nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big fan of sauerkraut.
This just you what?
Big fan of sauerkraut.
Yeah, I am now. I'll admit it. I'm going to make my own.
Yeah, we made our own for a little while, and we made our own. Oh fuck, what's it called? What's that horrible smelling yogurty type drink with live bacteria in?
Yakult?
No, not Yakult. Carry on what you were saying. I'll try and find it.
Well, I'm just saying. We're on the subject of bowels, but anyway, here's the thing about, because today we are talking about bad habits. Now they destroys your business.
Kefir, that's what it's called. We made our own kefir.
All right.
It stunk like cheese. It was terrible. We threw it away.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's disgusting. But bad habits, there's kind of three things now. One of the 3 points we want to touch on is this idea of doing what everyone else does. And pertinent to that is this idea of scrolling mindlessly on your phone. You know, look around. It is Jim Rohn used to talk about this a lot. He's dead now, so he's not talking about anything. But Jim Rohn used to talk about this, and it is so obvious. It's easy to miss. It's almost like not being able to see the wood for the trees. All right. People want, in general, I know success means different things to everybody. The best description I've ever heard is from Earl Nightingale, which was, it's the progressive realization of a worthy goal, where a worthy goal is something worthy of you or your skills. Okay, so becoming the biggest drug dealer in a town probably isn't much of a worthy goal, because selling stuff that might kill people, bankrupt them, it isn't particularly worthy. But there's a lot of subjectivity there. But I think we'd all tend to know what's worthy of us and what isn't. Deep inside, we know. We might not always choose to do it, but I think we generally know what we perceive as being right and wrong.
Yeah.
And so most people want to be successful, but most people are not, are they? Nope. They're just not. I mean, most people, they live, they get a job, they work, they raise a family, they die. And Thoreau wrote about the lives of quiet desperation people live, because they want something more. But before they know it, they've got a family, they've got children. They feel they can't do it. They wear these chains of conformity, and it binds them so tightly because they don't know they're wearing them. The chains that bind us the tightest are indeed the chains we don't know we're wearing, and conformity is one of them. So they take their lead from everyone else. And when they do want to succeed, what do? Well, they just look around at what everyone's doing, because everyone else, they project. While they're dying inside and have this life of quiet desperation, everyone on the outside, they put on this facade. So they look at their neighbours, and social media's made this a lot fucking worse.
Social media is fucking the demon when it comes to this shit. When it comes to this in particular.
They will see what other people choose to project. And I think we probably all do that to some extent. I don't go out of my way to project an image of anything in particular. But that doesn't mean to say I reveal all my innermost thoughts and what's going on in my life to everybody. Of course I bloody don't. There's no point. You're
just inauthentic, mate.
Inauthentic. Oh my God, can you imagine? So people take their lead from what's around them, which includes this fucking demon social media. So now you think about it, we've got to a situation where in life in general, it's normal to sit there, say in an airport or a railway station, doom scrolling. Because I think Cal Newport talks about embracing boredom. Why don't you just sit there for a bit? I don't mean sit there being you or just being whatever these fucking mindset twats like to say. But why don't you just sit there and just accept the boredom or read a book? But doom scroll, and it's normal. And it's normal for couples now to sit on a sofa with the TV on. No one's watching it, and they're doom scrolling. I remember a guy, and the last time I flew was probably a couple of years ago now. It was last summer, coming back from the UK. Thinking about it, the event we did, and there was a guy sitting next seat over the aisle. I swear this is true. He had a Microsoft Surface, and he was watching a video. He was doing this, and in his other hand, he had a phone. and I could see because I was on his left, so he was holding his phone in his right hand, so I could look across and see what he was doing on his phone. Because I got better than 20/20 vision, both eyes. You see, he was on Facebook and he was scrolling Facebook and hitting like and just doing the Facebook thing, and also watching this video. I'm thinking you're not focusing on either of those. I haven't got a clue what either of those is about. Really. You're just mindlessly doing this. And he wasn't a young bloke. He was probably, I'd say, mid to late 30s, early 40s. Hard to tell. He had quite a big beard, you know. But this is normal. This is normal, and it's a bad habit to get into.
It's a terrible habit. Those people are just wandering through life without much thought at all.
Well, I was talking about general life, though. But I mean, people do this in business too. People sit on. I was sent a post by one of my spies, EBGS, and there was a discussion, and a lot of people were kind of saying this is the norm now. This is what they have to do. Spending 3 hours a day on LinkedIn, liking, sharing, viewing, and commenting posts. And, this isn't writing their own posts. This is engagement on others' posts. Well, bearing in mind, probably most people spend an hour or so writing a post that we can knock out in 10 minutes. And they're probably spending 4 hours a day on LinkedIn. Now, if that was making them loads of money, fucking have at it. I'll spend 4 hours on sales calls each day and every day if you let me, because 3/4 of them are going to convert to fucking 10 grand sales. But they're on LinkedIn and they're just looking. This is just lead generation now. Why would you spend 4 hours a day lead generation when it isn't working, which isn't? But they just do it. Bad habits, bad habits, bad habits.
If the only way you're going to grow your business is not by accident, it's with purposeful focus.
Vodka is also a bad habit.
Is that vodka or is that water?
That's vodka, mate. I'm back on the drink. Here's my supply.
Thank God for that.
No,
you're not going to grow your business by accident. The only way you're going to grow your business is through focus. And we've gone through this recently. Not that we had a bunch of bad habits, but we've recently experienced what it's like to truly focus. I think we thought we had an idea what it's like to focus, but we've been in a period of focus that has led to our best month ever.
Yes.
So if you're not focusing on anything, you're not strategically focusing on the right parts of your business, you're just sort of that plastic bag being pulled left to right in the wind that is social media. You're not going to get much done, are you? Nothing meaningful, nothing beyond the surface level at the very least. You're never going to be able to accomplish something profound.
No. And here's an uber bad habit, right? One bad habit is not getting into good habits. It's almost like a habit of omission. Think about it. And as Jim Rohn used to say, it's just as easy to do the things often as not to do them. I mean, here's a good example. My mobility regime is basically 3, what Toby calls workouts. No, it's 4 now. 4 workouts a week, which are like weights and stuff. But every morning, 7 days a week, there's what he calls the CARs. I can't remember what it stands for. But it basically takes in all the joints, from neck, thoracic spine, shoulders, scaps, wrists, elbows, knees, and ankles and hips. And you move each one through a full range of motion under tension. It's not particularly demanding in terms of effort. I mean, it's quite a high effort for a very short period of time. And at the end of it, you're sweating a little bit and you're not out of breath. But it takes maybe 10 to 12 minutes. Okay. And it makes a profound difference. Within days, I could notice a difference. Sometimes I would do it last thing at night, so I don't ache so much in the morning when I wake up. I do it before my weight training. But the minimum is to do it for 12 minutes in the morning. Yet people tell Toby I don't have time for it. That is just not true. It is absolute bollocks. It really is. They can't find 12 minutes at some other time of the day, maybe, if the morning's too much for them. Please don't tell me you can't find 12 minutes in a day to take some action, habitual action, which could mean the difference between life and death in your older years. Because, a great cause of death, for instance, is you fall over and break something. And there's something like a 60% mortality rate in people over 60 within 2 years after they break a hip. Something like that. It's fucking scary. And most of that isn't so much the fall. It's the lack of mobility after the fall, and which is nothing to do with the hip replacement itself. And some of them, it's because they fall, they break the hip, and then they're so immobile and weak, they can't get up off the floor. That's what causes the damage. Well, simple good habit of 12 minutes a day for maybe the 10, 15, 20 years before that would almost certainly have prevented that from happening. So that's the bad habit of not having a good habit by omission.
I saw a video the other day of this woman. She was unloading her car. She had a pram there. She'd just taken the baby out of the car seat, put it into the pram, and she's turned back around to grab like her handbag or something. Once she's put the baby in the pram started rolling away, and it's heading towards. It looked like a 4-lane highway in America. She sees this, obviously shits herself, starts running after it. She falls over. She couldn't get up. This baby is then just hurtling, and it's this just the longest 5 seconds ever of this woman repeatedly trying to get up and falling over again and again, just unable to lift herself off the ground. Some man at the last minute, you see him just enter the frame. He absolutely sprints and like grabs hold of the pram just before it's about to get hit by oncoming traffic. And this woman is still just there like a fucking shit fish. Just because she's obviously extremely unathletic, and it didn't look like she was the mother. So she was about to kill someone else's child, probably her grandchild or her niece or nephew or something, because she just let all of these bad habits creep in of drinking, overeating, and never paying much attention to themselves. Being bored is essentially being with yourself. I think people don't really know who they are anymore because they never spend any time with themselves anymore.
Well, some people, I mean, my ex-wife, she can't sit in silence.
It's a bad trait, that.
Yeah, I mean, like, say you and I were on a long train journey or a car journey, say, driving up the M5 to the Lake District. We'd probably talk and laugh, but we'd also have long periods of silence, and they'd be perfectly comfortable. Whereas my ex cannot possibly do that. She has to be talking. She finds silence per se uncomfortable, which I find it blissful. Now, me and Sarah, anyway, long periods of very comfortable. I find very comfortable silence. I think Sarah does too. But why the fuck do people need to fill these moments of blissful silence with their inane, incessant fucking chatter? I really don't know.
And it is always
so. That's one bad habit, anyway. Not getting into good habits and not focusing on support. Second one, kind of follow on really, because we mentioned social media. A really bad habit people have is listening to the unqualified opinions of other people, often just because they're popular.
Got a lot to say on that.
I bet you have.
It does my head in. People just listening to other people without a modicum of critical thinking. These people that give opinions so freely are often uneducated, because if you're educated, you know the danger of giving an opinion.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And if even worse, if you listen to unsolicited opinions, people that just come along, say on your social media, leave you a comment, hey, great post, but you should do this next time, and you listen to them. Are you mental? This person has got nothing better to do with their day other than to fucking give out unsolicited advice, which is probably just their way of trying to prove to themselves that their own strategy and whatnot is a viable strategy. And it's like the crab in the bucket. They're just trying to keep you in the bucket with them, doing fucking inane bullshit. The only people you should be listening to for advice are people that are experts in their field and have preferably solved the problem that you're trying to solve. End of conversation.
Well, I remember, I'm going back pre-COVID now, but there was a lady, some fairly, she's a bigwig as far as as LinkedIn marketing goes. I mean, bearing in mind, I don't think that's actually a real job, not really. But that's not the point. She was very popular and presumably good at what she did. To me, it's a little bit like being, maybe the Pope or a bishop. You're the head of this organization that's absolutely meaningless because it's about religion. But anyway, it's all fucking made up. It's like being fucking chief fairy tale teller, isn't it? Anyway, well, the fucking head of Hogwarts. It's not real, honestly. But anyway, that's not the point. But what is a good point is she was basically posting about putting her prices up, and two people in particular railed on her and said, you can't do that, and here's what you should do instead. And coincidentally, both of these people, they weren't business experts or marketing experts or sales experts or even business owners. They were both coincidentally airline pilots. Now, let's be very clear about this. These guys are very highly trained in what they do. There's no two ways about it, I'm sure.
Discipline.
And believe me, if there's an in-flight emergency when I'm flying a plane or I'm on a plane, I'm going to ask those guys for advice, or at least trust them to get to do what they know how to do, because that's what they do. No fucking problem about that at all. And if I've got questions about how to fly an aeroplane, specifically Boeing 777, because that's what they were pilots of, again, I will ask these guys. And if I've got a question about what does this mean on aircraft traffic control when he says this, or what does such and such flight 432 heavy mean? Well, the heavy means it's got a lot of fuel on it. If I want those kinds of questions answered, I'll ask a pilot. But when it comes to business, why would I ask a fucking airline pilot about how to raise my prices or whether I should or not? And the thing is, what got me was this woman, to be fair, she didn't take their advice, but she engaged them in an argument and justified herself to them. Why? And she confided to me later that, she was. It made her second guess what she was doing. Why? That's like the guy from the local shoe shop telling me how to write a book.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, not at all.
You've also got to look at the inverse of this. And I made a grave mistake as well once, which I'll tell you about shortly. Just the one that I'm willing to share on the podcast. So it'll be the most grave mistake this podcast ever hears. You've got to be careful of people's praise. Because if they're not qualified, just in the same way, if people aren't qualified to give advice, they're not qualified to give praise. You should not allow someone giving you like a pat on the back, saying, good job, well done, to a bit of work you've done, if they're not qualified to give that pat on the back. If they're not qualified to critique it or give you advice on it, they're not qualified to give you kudos on it. And you pointed this out to me, and I was like, of course that makes sense. It's just inverse thinking, which is something we spoke about quite a lot recently. Anyway, so Mum said to me, and this is the mistake, my mum said to me, you're doing a really good job, Connor. I'm really proud of you and the things that you're doing in your business. You did a really good job with Project X, Y, and Z, because she'd obviously heard me talking about them. And I said, whilst I appreciate your love, you are not fit to tell me if I've done a good job or not. She was not happy with me.
No, I think that probably scores quite high in the how not to do interpersonal relationships.
Yeah. It was
how
a big
not
mistake.
To win friends and influence people.
Yeah, I was like, it's nothing personal, but
I'm autistic.
Yeah, I said to her, but who are you to tell me it's a good job? You couldn't tell me what's good or bad. Yeah, bad mistake. It was in COVID, and I just think I was looking for a row.
No.
But it's an important point, nevertheless. Yeah, sometimes I like a good debate, a good argument. You just did it, you fuck. Fuck.
I got you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast this week.
He's going to storm off now and hit Tamsin.
That's really wound me up. You've done me. You've absolutely done me.
Fucking got you.
It's because when you're on it, you're already talking. It's just a little gentle prod. Fuck you. Back to what I was saying. Don't let
Holly, do not cut that one out.
No, she won't. Of course she won't. She'll highlight it. She'll turn the volume up and add some fucking fancy noises. And if you've got staff, you got to be careful not to listen to your staff as well, because they'll often not understand the decisions that you're making at the top level. I'm not sure I can concentrate anymore.
Breathe. Let me talk for a minute, and you can fester. Other people listening to this thinking, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, they got no
paying
idea.
us, you'd know, wouldn't you? If you're paying us. So, other people's opinions. I mean, it's people seem to misunderstand. Well, there's a whole kind of mess of things here. The first is people don't understand often, or choose to ignore, the difference between facts and opinions.
Yeah.
It is a fact, as far as I can tell, the sun is shining out there. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. All right. We could measure it objectively.
But you even qualified it by saying, as far as you can tell.
Well, yeah, of course, because I could be hallucinating.
Exactly.
Yeah. But as far as I can tell, it's a fact that the sun is shining. What would be an opinion would be, well, the sun's nice or the sun's not nice. Or the sun is warm in the sense that I feel warm because someone else might feel cold. That's an opinion. Facts are what is true. Opinions are really what we think about it or what we think is true. And what we've got is people take this quite, in my opinion, correct statement. People are entitled to their own opinions. Of course they are. They're allowed to think and feel whatever they like. But they then take that to mean, well, that then translates to it being factual too. So I'm entitled to my opinion, and that means that my opinion has some element of objective truth about it, such as, oh, in my opinion, vaccines are bad. Well, that's your opinion. That means nothing whatsoever in terms of the science of vaccines. But they seem to think it should, and we should somehow take their opinion into account. And this is dangerous because it's happening. We have people's assemblies where the opinions of uninformed, mostly unintelligent people get taken into account for policy decisions which affect all of us. Why on earth are we doing this? It's fucking stupid. We should be listening to scientists. Now, I do accept there is an argument for scientists not having carte blanche to decide everything, because there are some other sides of things we do need to discuss, to talk about. Like, for instance, medical care. It makes sense to let people who are going to die just to die and give them no medication whatsoever. But a more human side of it, which would then come into the realm of opinions and subjectivity, would be, well, at least let's give them palliative care to make their deaths as pleasant as possible, or at least as less unpleasant as needs to be. That's where there's no real argument for science in that. It's just a human's an opinion. So it's true. We perhaps do need to soften the edges of science sometimes, in the same way as we have juries to soften the edges of intractable and inflexible law. We do have that. That's one reason for juries existing. But to take people's opinions and treat them as some kind of holy sacrosanct thing which we can't question or pour derision on is ridiculous. It's like religion. If someone says we've got to respect my religion, all of a sudden it's, we've got to respect its religion. Why? Religion is just a fucking opinion. Religion is just a largely stupid idea of the way the world works. We've got 30,000 different flavors of Christianity alone, and they all say they're the one true way. Well, they can't all be fucking right, can they? 29,999 of them are fucking wrong, at least. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
And another thing about people following the herd and taking other people's opinions is this natural human tendency to want to belong.
Yeah, of course. Don't want to be the out group.
No, I don't know, it's my age being autistic or just the way I've lived my life and educated and taught myself. I don't really give a shit about it. I don't want to be in the in group. But even I am subject to certain conformities. I pretty much dress the same as everybody else. Partly because that's what's available, but also it's fairly comfortable. And I wouldn't have any desire to walk around in a dress, even if it's comfortable, because of the unwanted attention it would get. So, we're not completely. Well, if I walked around with a face like this wearing a dress, yes,
got him.
Just done it to me. Yeah, the difference is I don't care. I don't get wound up about it. You bastard.
Yeah, you keep telling me how much you don't care.
Point being, walk around in a dress with a face like mine, you'd get unwanted attention. It's amazing how powerful that is, isn't it?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's incredible.
It gets even the trained mind.
Yes.
You went viral in the gay community on one of our Instagram posts. I decided the other day. Maybe there's some truth in it. Yeah, there was several men asking if you were single on one of our Instagram reels.
I hope you told him no.
I didn't know about it until I had my morning meeting with Holly. She was like, we uploaded a clip. There was like 15,000 views or something. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, but I haven't noticed an increase in sales. So where are these views coming from? So I opened it up, look at the comments and the likes. Yeah, and it's just a bunch of men. Just a bunch of men.
I wonder why my arse was so sore.
Someone's been creeping in the middle of the night. I think it's fair to summarize by saying, and this includes yourself when you're trying to work on a problem, but you shouldn't really listen to people's opinions if they have no knowledge on it, and especially if they haven't solved the problem that you're trying to solve. And I think as difficult as this is, that includes yourself. If you're trying to do something you've never done before and you're putting together a plan to do said thing, you are completely unaware of how ignorant you are. You have a massive debt of ignorance. You have a massive knowledge deficit there. Yeah, a huge knowledge gap. So you have to be aware of your own biases. You have to be aware of your own ignorances and the danger of your own opinions about the world. Now, the slight caveat, most people think they are their thoughts, so everything that goes through their head, if they think about killing people, they'll come out and say, oh, I'm a terrible person, I think about killing people. I don't think you're really your thoughts. And this is kind of a side note. I think that's why journaling is so impactful and so important, because it's essentially you get to filter through your thoughts and figure out what is yours and what is just invasive. But if you're not paying down your ignorance debt every single day and you're not aware of your own ignorance, you're going to make a lot of fucking mistakes because you're putting too much weight on your own opinion about what it is that you're about to do, how the way should be. And that's why critical thinking is so important, because that's just merely an objective way of processing, analysing and evaluating the information to hand rather than just going on the way you feel about things. And you do it in a logical, systematic manner where most people are just flying off their feelings, aren't they?
Yeah. John Cleese has got a great video on YouTube about this very point.
Does he?
Yeah, and he basically Google search something like John Cleese on people being stupid. Basically, one of his friends is a psychologist, a professor or something, and he points out we know this anyway. The problem we face often is some people are too stupid to know they're stupid. Because the same cognitive abilities you need not to be stupid are required to know that you're stupid. So as somebody once quipped, being stupid is a little bit like being dead. It's not a problem for you because you don't know anything about it, but it is a problem for everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to face the fact some people are just born stupid, they live stupid lives, and they die stupid. They are just fucking stupid. And the best thing we can do for most of them, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with them, making bad people, but we should just let them quietly get on with their lives and effectively ignore them. Because they're like, think of them as being children playing in the corner in their own little world, and just let them get on with it for a while, because we've got adult stuff to do. And unfortunately, there are people running businesses and even in quite senior positions who are like this, and we just have to accept it and let them get on with it.
You've got to be like a computer, unobjective, cold, and just analyze the facts and information and come to objective opinions.
That would be objective.
I said objective.
You said unobjective.
Holly will play the clip.
She will
replay it,
and you'll see. So, and of course, part of all this tendency to listen to other people's opinions means you're taking advice from people who've got the same problems you have. They have opinions on how to solve it, but they actually haven't solved it yet. And what I lost, this kind of conformity, buying into this kind of widespread conformity, it generally leads to people being what we call busy fools. They're very active in talking, for instance, on social media, LinkedIn. They are very active in talking about what they're doing, talking about often themselves, which is fucking anti-sales 101. And the last thing anyone gives a shit about is you. But they buy into this whole thing, and they will spend 3-4 hours a day just talking about their business. So and the way they look at it, again, this is their own bias, their own cognitive bias. They're busy. They are doing stuff connected with their business. It's stuff that everyone else is telling them builds business. You've got all these people saying how effective social media marketing is, yet the same ones saying it's not working for them. Why not? I'll just keep doing more of it. And they keep doing more of it because that's what everyone's telling them to do. Well, they are busy fools. They are not thinking, "Man, what's actually going to move this needle?" Regardless of what people will say or think of me. Because a lot of these people, they would benefit, for instance, mightily, massively, from spending 1 hour a day on cold outreach, whether it's cold calling, direct mail, cold emails. But they won't do it. Sometimes not even because they don't want to, but because they're afraid of what other people might say if they get found out. Hey, guys, Google does direct mail. Hello.
It's social media is easy because everyone kind of understands it as well. I genuinely think, rather than say spending 3-4 hours a day on social media, you'd be far better off taking one of those hours and sit there and do nothing and just feel how painful that is, because that's essentially what you're doing on social media. You're sitting there and doing nothing. At least this time you'll be able to feel how you feel some frustration, and then you'll be able to use that frustration, that anger, into doing something a little bit more fruitful. Because that's
fruitful.
I'm ignoring that.
I nearly got
spotted a mile off. No, spotted a mile off. Because that's essentially what you're doing. There's no argument that social media can win you clients, especially if you do it the way we teach our clients to do it. We're not arguing that. But John, how many minutes a day on social media do you spend?
Me?
Yeah, how many minutes a day?
What are we classing as social media? Do we treat WhatsApp as social media?
No.
Okay. So social media, I probably spend email. Do we count email?
No, I'm not counting that. Okay. LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook.
Oh, on average then, less than 10 minutes a day.
Less than 10 minutes a day.
And that's an average. I mean, I will go weeks, months without logging into anything whatsoever. I've been on LinkedIn more recently because I'm linking it to our cold outreach. Yeah. And I'm looking at how a couple of things are working. So I've got a genuine reason. And once I'm on there, I take 5 minutes to indulge myself in looking at the newsfeed and reminding myself how fucking awful it is. And it is. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I would say since June, since I just logged out of everything, my average a day is probably less than a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, my screen time, I'm actually quite happy to do this. I'm going to post my screen time for people to see, and they will see how little time and where I spend my time. What is it now? Screen.
So the reason I asked about how many minutes on average you spend on social media is because I too spend probably less than a minute on average on social media a day. Yet we still make sales from it.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that you have to spend 3-4 hours a day on social media to make sales. It's bollocks, and there's far better ways of doing it, flat out. And we do it in a very different way compared to most people. So yeah. Take an hour, just sit there, feel your pain, feel your frustration, rather than sitting there and telling yourself that you're working, because you're engaging with people and you're building relationships that might be fruitful in the future. I don't like that word, might. Do something with a bit more certainty.
Today, for instance, Reuters, 14 minutes. WhatsApp, 4 minutes. Calculator, 1 minute. Practice Better, it's the thing I use to communicate with my doctor, 1 minute. SoundCloud, 1 minute. Sheets, 47 seconds. My Steps app, 10 seconds. This is today. Starting to get the picture, guys and girls. So the most amount of time I spend on anything is 14 minutes on Reuters, which is the news app, and 4 minutes on WhatsApp. And it's massive 80-20. No time whatsoever on social media.
As it should be.
As it should be.
Worst thing you can do, especially, the worst thing you can do is just fill your day with crap and thinking you're doing something.
It's conflating and confusing activity with achievement, isn't it? And if you think about it, peeps, the reason this works, or the reason this happens, is, as we've said before, it's all about dopamine. You get the same dopamine rush from being fruitful busy as pointless busy. If your perspective on it is that you're achieving something, if your belief is this is good, this is a good thing to be doing, that activity, regardless of its objective merits, will get you feeling good. That's a real fucking danger.
Very dangerous. But most people won't care.
No.
Just in the same way we're not for everyone. Embracing and taking control of your own life isn't for everyone. Some people are made to just wander through, controlled by their dopamine receptors, jumping from one thing to another, context switching often, so they're always going wide, but
Well,
remaining shallow and never deep.
to be fair, I think we are probably all controlled ultimately by our dopamine receptors. But I
To an extent.
think to a very large extent, because
I think some people more than others.
I would disagree with that because
go on.
I would disagree with it because I think it comes down to self-awareness of it. Because are you suggesting that somebody who gets the short-term dopamine hit of Instagram doom scrolling is more driven by their dopamine than someone who's got a long-term goal and gets dopamine satisfaction from doing that? I would disagree. I would say it's the difference between them both is their awareness of what's happening.
One's a junkie because the spikes are far higher.
You sure about that?
Yeah, the spikes are far higher.
No, are you sure that they're junkies?
So what, dopamine junkies? Yeah, absolutely. If you're spending the average session on TikTok, I believe is close to an hour.
Ooh.
I classify that as a junkie. And the spikes they get from that constant context switching being showed, stresses and relaxes, everything from the most interesting video about your favorite habits to big booty meddling Colombian girls.
I'm not denying that they're very much driven. My point is, I'm not sure that people who have a more thoughtful approach to their success and what they want out of life, I don't believe they're any less dopamine driven. I think it's just, look at it this way. Let's use the analogy. There's the junk food diet when you're addicted. Well, you're not addicted, but you are dependent on sugar and maybe alcohol, and you're stuffing your face every 5 minutes, and you're getting fat on junk food. And then there's your sensible diet. You're both driven by the need to eat.
Yes.
Yeah, but you approach it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you have to do the same thing. So I'm not entirely sure. It's an interesting concept and one we can explore, but I'm not entirely sure.
My thinking is, and I haven't thought it through as well as perhaps I should for a conversation like this, is it's almost like chasing the dragon. So the higher the spikes you experience,
the more you need it.
The more you need it, and therefore you crave and chase that dopamine a lot more. But therefore the chasm between their peak and their base is far higher. And when you engage in those activities, your baseline dopamine drops, which is why everyone thinks they've got ADHD nowadays. Because they've created this massive chasm through excessive dopamine frying. So then they're like, oh, I'm ADHD. It's like, fucking slow down, you retard. Can't use that word anymore, but I'm retarded, so therefore I can. Compared to the disciplined man that has far higher baseline, but never let its spikes too far. Of course, they're still controlled by dopamine, but nowhere near to the extent of a junkie.
Well, yes, we both agree they're both controlled by dopamine. I would say they're controlled to a similar extent. I guess one difference might be that your disciplined man or woman or person or non-binary person, your disciplined man requires less of it.
Yeah, so therefore they're more
like insulin. My insulin sensitivity is massive. It's off the scale. I need a very tiny amount of insulin to do the job, whereas someone who's obese and subsists on sugar and junk food needs a massive hit of insulin. We both need it, and we both get the same result from it. They just need more of it and more often. I don't think it would be correct to say, it wouldn't make any sense, but to really stretch the analogy, it wouldn't mean that I'm any more or less dependent on insulin. It's just that I can get by with less of it. Yeah. Interesting conversation, though.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Would you say we are not driven by the dopamine spikes we get from getting triage calls booked, getting sales calls booked, and making those sales? That drives us. I don't think that's any different from someone scrolling on Instagram, but not subjectively, objectively, massively so, in the sense that we're getting results. They're just busy fools.
I understand Exactly. I understand exactly what you're saying, and you are spot on. I think the angle I'm more
Always
looking
am,
at
mate.
it from is the higher your baseline level directly correlates with the likelihood of you doing work that you find uncomfortable, that you don't want to do, because you can afford for the baseline level to drop.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So that's why I'm saying they're less dependent on it, because if they have to undergo an activity that is going to really bore them to death and is really difficult and is going to require long periods of focus and concentration, the one with the higher baseline and the lower peak is far more likely to get it done, and therefore is less driven. Maybe not using dependent wasn't the right word, because we're all dependent, but they're far less driven by instant gratification, and we all know the power
Bingo.
of delaying
All right.
instant gratification, which is why
Anyway,
we get such a big spike from sales and triage.
and here's the kicker, of course, for everybody. Discipline is its own reward.
Yeah.
And it's a learned skill. All these things we're talking about, you could be the worst doom scroller in the world, but you can break the habit if you want to. I was never a huge doom scroller, but I still went cold turkey. I just deleted it all from my phone. And if you don't have the willpower to abstain from these things, then physically remove yourself from it. So delete these things from your phone, log out in your browser, change your password to something you can't possibly remember and type in from memory. So you have to go back into something like Bitwarden to find it, or make it as difficult and inconvenient as possible to log into these things.
Book.
Hey,
an old school paper password book. Do you remember them?
Yeah, and keep it in a different room from your office. So if you want to go and log into, say, LinkedIn, you've got to get off your arse, leave the office, go to your bedside cabinet, bring the book down, so it's not open on your desk, type it in, and make sure you take it back. Just make it, and what you'll do is you think, I just can't be fucking bothered. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we need to wrap up, my love.
We do. Good episode. As always, if you want to work with us, email Holly, HOLLY, @wellfedbusiness.com. And she'll look after you. She'll get you booked in for a little triage call. Keep an eye out, ironically, on our emails and our socials, because we've got a new book coming out very, very soon. By the time you're listening to this, we'll probably be just 5-7 days away from selling it pre-published. And for anyone who buys it pre-published, we're going to give away an extra free little bonus that is yet to be announced. But other than that, stay safe, finger your bum, check your prostate, and think critically. See you later, alligators.
Bye.